three of the best friends I've ever had in my life were Billy Cox and Bob Axelton and Adrian Daniels. And I met Billy probably in '87, '88 because he worked for Richard Tubb, and I knew Richard Tubb and would go to Richard's shop. He also was the co-chair on the Heartstrings, the first event I worked on, and that's when Billy and I became close friends. He was one of the founding members of Birmingham AIDS Outreach and was the development officer for several years. He did have HIV, but still worked here full time. Bob Axelton Bob and his mother were the people who started the very first rural AIDS clinic in the United States. They started in Anniston, Alabama, and Bob formed a clinic there, and then later came to Birmingham after he'd had some threats from the police and fire departments in Anniston that things were going to happen to him if he didn't get out of town. So he moved to Birmingham, and he was the education director for BAO, and he began the youth group, YAC. He started that council in his home and was just reached hundreds, no telling how many people Bob reached. He would take his word to the bars, he would go to the schools, he did the training to train the volunteers. He and I worked on that together. He was just a wonderful, wonderful educator for Birmingham AIDS Outreach. Adrian Daniels was a wonderful friend, and I met him when we were working on an event in 3 Acts. Adrian had AIDS, and he was a volunteer here. He was the person who was in charge of bringing the quilt, the Names Project, to Birmingham in connection with an event in 3 Acts, and worked very hard to get that together. Later, when I was the volunteer coordinator, it was time to do the holiday boxes that had been started about 2 or 3 years before that. And I was going to do it because we weren't going to have a volunteer coordinator in time. And I asked Adrian to do it with me. And when I told Cindy Nams that I'd asked Adrian, I said, I hope you're not going to be upset, Cindy, but I promised him half of the salary I'm getting. And she said, no, that's great. Half nothing is nothing. We can work it out. So that year, Adrian and I did the boxes, and it was a wonderful time to work together. And he thought this was a marvelous project, so he put his whole heart and soul in it. And the next year, we wanted to do it again together, and he said, I'm going to do it no matter what. And that year, he was really not well, but he worked on it and made it a wonderful project. And it was such a tribute that when he did die in April of '94, that they named that project for Adrian. And they don't usually, BAO is very careful about not specifically naming projects, but that just was a wonderful tribute to Adrian. All of them became close family with me and my family. And Adrian died in April of 1994, and Billy died the day before Thanksgiving in '94, and then Bob died in '95. In that time, in the '94, '95 years, we were all, the AIDS community, were all going to 4 and 5 memorial services a week. They were just, people were really sick or really not doing well. I remember in 1 week here at BAO, the people who were working at BAO who were also clients, we had 8 in 1 week die. It was just an awful, awful, hard time. And right after that is when they did find the drugs that were working and get people on the medicine that they needed, and things really, really turned around. And I'm so thankful that we now have those tools. I'm just sorry we can't get them to everybody as quickly as we need and as many as they sometimes need. When I come in this building, just like a few minutes ago when I started coming in, this is home. I am totally comfortable here. It's a place where I have found friends and love and sharing unlike anywhere other than my church. It is just a beautiful, beautiful place with people whose hearts are so loving and so giving. And I am so thankful that I've been able to be part of Birmingham AIDS Outreach through the years. My life has been enriched in ways I can never describe and never fully tell anybody about all the wonderful, wonderful gay friends I have, men and women. They have brought joys into my life that I would have never, ever experienced. They're the most beautiful people, the most creative, loving people. And the thing that just amazes me, I guess because it's so easy to love them, is that they're so thankful for somebody who does love them and who does treasure them. And I just think, but everybody should. You know, that's not a privilege. You deserve that. And it is totally, my husband and I both had so many friends who'd go on our family vacations with us, who've spent many, many holidays with us. One Thanksgiving, we invited pretty much everybody who wasn't going somewhere that was associated with BAO, and had about 27 people for Thanksgiving that year. And the Reverend James Cox, who was the volunteer assistant coordinator, came, and he had a beautiful voice. And James sang the blessing. He first said the words to count your many blessings, and then he sang the blessing, and then he had everyone go around the table to say what they were thankful for. And when he got to my daughter, who was kind of at the back of the line, or around the other side of the table, she said, well, I'm thankful that my mother's a good cook, and I think we really need to stop and eat her. It's just not going to taste real good. But she said later that was one of the best Thanksgivings she had ever had. So my whole family has been a part of my BAO experience. And the most beautiful, beautiful tributes have even come recently. My husband died 4 years ago. And I honestly can say, I don't know where I'd be today without all of my gay friends. They have been there, they have supported me, they were there before I got home from the hospital, in my kitchen, setting things up, bringing flowers, taking care of me, and they've done that beautifully, taking me to Florida, taking me on vacations, just been there for me, been my friends, been my family for the last 4 years. They were before, but they've been now in a way that I think very few people who are widowed have the opportunity to have friendships continuing like that. So I just think, generalizing as a group, it's the most wonderful group of people that I've ever been privileged to know and be part of. And they do allow me and tease me that I am definitely an honorary gay, and I think that's the greatest honor, that they would trust me and love me in that kind of way.